So Throne and Liberty just had a little bit of an emergency maintenance. This was to address the following issues. They've also finally started rolling out the fortune stones for all that Solent spent over the 2-week period. However, we have no sign yet still of the rewards. So let's go through everything you should know and when to actually expect those rewards. Well, first looking at what they announced they actually changed with this update, well, it looks like just 2 skill issues. Both effects were remaining persistent when they should not have, giving you certain advantages. Maintenance was at the usual time expected for 2 hours, but they did run into a few issues with the Carnage server in the US East and Xbox as well. Later on, they did confirm that Carnage was back online. However, that's over 5 hours later. But along with this update, they did also promise that they would start removing players who exploited the trials from the leaderboards, along with players who partook in part-time botting, also removing them from arena leaderboards. Honestly, I think it's a little too late for most to really care. I'm simply just going to wait for the new season of trials before I put in that work to actually climb the ranks. But yes, they've also confirmed we should start receiving those fortune stones. I personally did not, and they should be awarded within your mail, again, based on how much Solent you spent. You should get 80 fortune stones for every 5 million. I most likely spent upwards of 160 million, particularly to unlock my character's storage. However, there was actually conflicting information with this. We initially received from the developers that unlocking storage did count for Solent spent, but when you contacted community support, they were stating that Solent spent from purchasing things from NPCs will not count towards your total. This includes storage expansions. Now that's a little concerning. However, a community manager did follow up and said she spoke to Tico and will pass this message along to figure out what's the misunderstanding. And to follow up on that, they went and spoke to community service and told them to update their responses so that storage purchases will be considered as counting. Overall, the event just feels like a bit of a mess. I personally believe that vagueness with how much Solent you spent was most likely intended. They want you to not really know how much you've spent and then probably overspend just to be sure. And yeah, I honestly think this event was probably a bit of a trap. It has some enticing rewards offered, but it's all based on chance. Here in this example, if 1,000 players reach the threshold for Nebula Boss Accessory Selection Chest, then there will only be a 5% chance of obtaining this, since there are only 50 chests being awarded. And that's similarly like 1,000 players get to 12,000 fortune stones, only 10 players can receive the reward, so that's now a 1% chance you get it. And in order to get to 12,000, you realistically had to spend like upwards of 500 million Solent. Seems like such a waste. And be aware, there are some big updates coming, with the new raid confirmed on June the 26th. And this will bring new legendary gear as confirmed by Tico. This event could have been set up to bleed as much Solent out of the player's economy as possible, so that when this update drops, we'll be forced to go out there and grind a ton more Solent to be able to, say, actually upgrade these things or get the new skill effects on them. But again, we shall see, and that's only speculation. But it just feels very unprofessional with their community service conflicting with what then the devs are saying. Now, in terms of the actual rewards, because right now, some players are indeed receiving a mail which thanks them for their participation and attaching those fortune stones with that mail. This player, for example, getting over 15,000. It's kind of silly. Why do they only stack to 1,000? The devs even had to say, prepare your inventory space accordingly. Now, I personally, on the EU servers here, have seen no sign of that mail yet. But they said be patient as it will take a bit of time throughout the weekend. But still, you get those fortune stones and you still can't do anything with them. We have to continue to wait. And they said here in the blog, all rewards will be distributed automatically in-game within 2 weeks of the event. So that means within 2 weeks after the event ends. So within 2 weeks after June the 11th. That gives them plenty of time. And yeah, we probably can't expect to receive any of those rewards for another week or two, waiting for an update. And the community manager did confirm as well, all rewards will be distributed automatically in-game within 2 weeks of the event. To reiterate and confirm, and to close the feedback thread to avoid any extra posts that they might not see while they're not working, she states the stones are on track to be sent out today, should arrive in your in-game mail in the next few hours. If there are any issues in the process on their end, they will communicate via Twitter and otherwise go and post in bug reports if you run into issues with the stones. And that's pretty much it on all we know so far. Rewards, still, we don't know when we'll be getting them over these next 2 weeks. I would assume probably on a Thursday when we get an update. And it could well just be as we get the new raid, June the 26th. And yes, don't go spending any solid now, as it should not account to your solid spent for those fortune stones, as the event is over as of June the 11th. So a special thank you to all my channel members for their extra support. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Goodbye for now.